All right. When you're pushing commercial energy out of Fidelity Investment, and this is a trade account,
Uh-huh.
the tax filings for the DTC side of the equation, in my opinion, I may leave out a form, I may not, because I don't have the full story. I'm going on what we just talked about.
Right.
So you're gonna need all of these forms I'm going to tell you are all going to end up on a 1096.
Okay.
That's going to be the worksheet. So with this type of investment, I'm going to say you're going to need of course, you got a 1099 OID.
Right.
You're going to need a 1099B for barter and trade.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to need, if there are any public liabilities, a 1099C.
Okay.
OID, B, C. Now, if there's any interest, then of course a 1099 INT.
Right.
All that goes into the DTC side of the equation. When that is filed, you can file these simultaneously. Then you're going to hand Fidelity attached to all of this accounting, stapled on top is a 1098F, their portion of the 1098F, so they can use that credit on their books. Fidelity is directly synced with the DTC and DTCC through the security settlement system. But as a fiduciary, you got to determine what's assets, what's liabilities. Because this is a trade account, the primary function of this account is for what? Trade.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the capital that's being appreciated is being leveraged for trade, no harm, no foul, it will credit, in that regard. If he wants to pull an M2, which is a check or a savings account type mechanism, an M1, which is cash, in my opinion, he should use the they have this thing with Fidelity where it's like bill pay.
Yep.
So he would do a bill pay disbursement from that account. So all of the filings in place, DTC side, all of that on a 1096 worksheet, 1098F, so the books will balance. And then if you need to convey out in a different direction, another public institution, a bill pay.
Okay. So that way it's still not touching hands or touching feet.
Right. You don't want, because in this space, if you mess around and touch it, everybody's insurance, now they're making claim against whoever touch it.
Okay.
To handle an M3 conveyance, it's a matter of just endorsing the paper and then passing the paper.
Okay. Which brings me to another question. I have a few accounts with Fidelity, and I'm in the process. We had some back and forth with the Treasury to set up to link my TDA accounts up to that account, right? So in my thought process, I was going to. So Fidelity stamped a $10 million medallion seal. I think we've talked about this before, but I've kind of come to a few conclusions on how to, quote unquote, claim that, because it's a debt for them, but it's an asset for me.
Right.
So what I've done was on that particular form with the seal on it, I put my own barcode on it and my own ledgering number for my trust, for my trust creds. And in that, I've ledgered it on my accounting ledger. But I hadn't sent it up yet, right? I'm about to send it up. I just needed to make sure I knew how I wanted it conveyed into, like, where I can count it.
Right.
When I send that up, what do I need to do to outside of those two things, like the bar? So the barcode it goes back to my silver, to one of my silver bonds.
Right.
And then the registration number goes back to the private express trust. Well, actually to the estate, and the private express trust owns the estate. Is was conveyed like that. Okay. So now, how is that all? You think that's all I need to be able to draw down off of that? Because
to draw off, so we're clear on M3 conveyances. Once you have substantiated both sides, and in this case, the DTC and DTCC, conveyance is a matter of how you want to convey. And so you're going to determine which method based upon the type of conveyance you want to do. So to keep it right out front, you're only required for any domestic institution that has a tax ID number to give them a K-1 disbursement. That's all you're required to do. Now, you can put it in the form of commercial paper, promissory note, bill of exchange, blah, blah, blah. But you're only required to issue a K-1 disbursement when you properly have structured this the right way. M3 assets are book entry instruments. They are conveyances. They can be modified and critiqued to serve as bonds and insurances and sureties and things. So they have a lot of capability. This is why it's called near money. The reason why they're calling it near money is it is the safest asset you can hold and give to someone else and have zero liability. There isn't anyone in any type of federal prison or financial institution for white collar crimes that's, there isn't anyone serving time in direct violation of the intercommerce and intracommerce laws. If the real gangsters use M3 assets, everybody else, they coerce you into doing something else. That's why it's a matter of principle. So if you're dealing with near money, every convention, every accounting concept and convention that's being used works in your favor. It stops and starts with the person you hand it to. So if it's going to be a K-1 disbursement, K-1 going to be domestic. Of course, K-2s and K-3s are foreign. Which way are you coming back in? Like, once you got it set, how are you coming back into the fold, domestic or foreign?
Right now it'll be domestic.
Okay, so if it's domestic, then
I'm saying that because I haven't put the thought process to put it on a DTC or DTCC ledger or put it out there for monetizing. Really,
that's where your LEIs come in. So if you're going to use
my mind, though, is what I was saying.
Yeah, you're going to need to get an LEI to provide that provision of protection. An LEI is going to, all right, K1s domestic, LEIs domestic, K2s, K3s foreign, GLEIs foreign. So you know which way it needs to look to use it. Now, if you acquire a LEI and don't acquire a GLEI, this is what the DTCC is doing with your information. Like, all the way up until July, you could go into the DTCC website and plug in your social or tax ID number, and it will tether it to an account. Don't do that anymore. Now it's by name. Now it's very specific. The algorithm has zeroed in on what are you in the commercial zone. If you got no activity in the commercial zone, you're being used by the commercial zone a certain type way. The GLEIs are no longer accessible if you don't have a LEI. I went through a class early last week, and I actually showed everyone my LEI. Like, I had put Diversity Trust Limited into existence back in 2018. And in the foreign jurisdiction, they had already monetized it and started creating instruments offered and selling it all across the planet. So all I did now, that's why I started doing arbitration, because I'm just returning the favor. I'm balancing the book. They've already monetized it. It's already being used by foreign entities. So the system doesn't wait for you to give it permission. It's designed to monetize those 9-digit identifiers. Everything now in commerce is in an LEI, GLEI space. Of course, that's not promoted here in the States because they don't want you to practice notional pooling.
Right.
But that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing, right.
Right. So if you're going to move like they're moving, you got to look just like them. Now, associate how much money do I need to spend to take my private security and convey it? $230. That's what it costs to get a CUSIP. That's it. Put your process together in whatever rules and regs you need. Balance the DTC with the DTCC, and then move it how you see fit. The fundamentals are few, but it's many processes, and you can combine them, especially with this new algorithm right now. Like, I don't know whether you guys are really into what's happening in the financial space with these M3 conveyances. This is why, we officially today launched the arbitration registry investment system. It is like the arbitrations version of the CRIS, and it's all through AI.
Okay.
So
you just register something, or you're
as a notary, you're tethering your notary to an algorithm, and everything that you put in that notary comes out as a conveyance. I got brokers right now that are like, I got this guy, Michael Strong. Michael Strong has sent me 10 projects based upon what was arbitrated in the last 6 months.
Okay.
And he's a big Wall Street guy. He's got deep pockets, but you got to remember, because the United States the treasuries ain't selling like they used to. They got to do something.
Okay.
So there's a market, huge market. Like, I'll tell you guys unequivocally, the youngsters that are under the age of 30, they get 300 to 500 leads a day, and they stare at those leads trying to figure out how to do the good old-fashioned pick up the phone, cold call, and close the deal. They got to have an algorithm to do it. Listen to this now. Right now, everybody that's in deal stream that's doing certain deals, they're putting all of that verbiage in the deal. All you have to do is copy and paste the deal in the chat GPT. Once you do that, you got an outline, an instrument, all of the above. And so what's starting to happen is now different brokers are basically conveying value through data sets, which is nothing more than this. It's going to ultimately, by the end of this week, next week, the data sets will be the equivalent of what crypto is. It'll be ledger to ledger. That's what it is. It's already there. It's just everybody can have their own ledger and move value from one book to the other now. Now, of course, mainstream, the finance, all the banks that have failed, they've all outsourced what I just articulated. So for every bank that fails, there's about 15 people that's in that bank that are all using this AI technology to do these conveyances. And they're looking for CISO compliant, compatible platforms where it's just basically, here's my ledger, here's the value, here's the seals, here's the instrument. What are you giving me as far as discount? They're actually, and we preached about this, you remember, years ago, about private exchanges. They're creating private exchanges.
Right. Wow. Just that quick.
There was a reason for giving everyone access to the AI. But that's how I would, proceed in that type of transaction in that regard.
Okay. So now with the with the award system, arbitration registration, how does that work?
Basically, Eris is designed to take the value on one ledger convey it to another ledger, and create an API that can be used by a third party. And that could be for banking, that could be for insurance purposes. We tethered it off as, if it's bankable, it can form a surety in insurance. And I still got about 30 other models to try, but I don't have enough cases right now. Hopefully after this conversation we'll get some more cases. But so it's designed to directly tether to your ledger. If you're doing noting and minuting, you already got your specimens, you got your barcodes, you got your parameters, your regulations, and your data set, then now it's a matter of, okay, how much, when, what your discount, and where it needs to go.
So it's like a data entry situation.
Right, and we're using Bitrix to do it. So this particular Bitrix is a little different than what you guys are used to, because they had, I knew 6 months ago they was going to bring an API for ChatGPT in Bitrix, and because they already got the parameters now, that's where we're at, because they now petition all the APIs every time you use a new Bitrix setup. So if it's going to be dealing with financial instruments and things of that sort, they've already given you all the developer tools to do it. Okay. So all we do at that point is there is a department that you set up within your Bitrix that will arbitrate the case. Like, arbitration is like this. How we're having this conversation, you will literally transcribe, like you're like how we're talking, like how you talk to Siri and Alexa. You're going to tell it exactly what you want it to do. It's going to transcribe that, and it's going to create about 15 to 500 different prompts. And you're picking the prompts that you want to use. The key to AI is, to get the results you want, you have to master proper prompting. You got to do prompt engineering. So we, in the last couple of months, really in the last 90 days, we got about 3,000 specialized prompts that will do exactly what you want to do from that ledger. You incorporate that with a chart of accounts. Now it'll not only will it convey the value, but it also give you a chart of account to reconvey back into your system. So the arbitration registration investment system is the equivalent to the CRIS. They use litigation, we use arbitration.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, so now with that, so basically you will have to buy another version of Bitrix, and then formulate.
What you have to do now is you have to tie into a comprehensive data set to get the effect. Like, some individuals are on ChatGPT solely on the free version, so they only get access to certain plugins.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right now, if you're just getting introduced to ChatGPT and you're still on the free version, there have been 4 different language models that's been developed in the last 90 days. And ChatGPT ain't quite the king of the hill. It's just popular. It's like Nike. It's popular. It's not the only shoe, but it's the popular one.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT GPT for all takes whatever you have in your system and makes it just as comprehensive as ChatGPT. So it's about your personalized data set. So if you have books, manuals, tax returns, strategies, accounting formulas, you incorporate that to a very comprehensive data set. Now you got Code Interpreter that you just released a few months ago. Now it'll write code now. It's writing Python. Like right now, to give you Bank in the Box, I can simply give you an upload on Python. You can install it on your computer, and it'll convert everything in your system to just that. but it also converts everything else that you're using. It monetizes your emails and everything else. So you got to decide where I'm going to use this.
Got it.
You can have it offline, which is the best way to do it. Like you have your own private library offline, and from time to time you tie into the system for updates.
So really, what you're doing is taking that data set. Say, for instance, if I have like 150 acts that were,
right.
I just can upload those,
mm-hmm.
and it go okay.
And see, the investors and brokers, they're tying in the back office. They want the portfolios. They want the APIs. They can scroll through the bottom algorithm of your Bitrix and pull those data sets. Of course, it's a pay. They don't mind paying. That's the whole purpose. Landing page comes out. They pay. They gain. They take. Just like the DTC is set up where when you go to it, as a member, you can take a data dump of everything that's in that system. So you can find the securities, monetize them, this, that, and so forth. But most people aren't that sophisticated in their conveyances. So they've implemented different strategies based upon how far along you are in the totem pole.
Okay.
If you at least are taking it to the court, you're gonna laterally be directly in alignment with the DTC. That's the DTC. That's the DTC side of that equation. Your local court, every commercial crime and infraction, it crossroads into the DTC that way. Every birth, every death, every real estate transaction, every mortgage, every foreclosure, every violent offense, domestic, whatever it is, if it can be charged commercially, that's your first crossing into the DTC. How they make their money is they convert that energy in a disputed ownership fund. That's why it's called a DOF. And then they play with it on the DTCC side. And because the rest of the world is going back to a gold standard, they're not going to abandon this system. They're just going to go fully automated. This is why they released the ChatGPT tools in the public domain. This is why the Fed now accounts, whether you apply for one or not, you already have, and you'll find yourself with no other place to go. It's marketed to business owners as a fast settlement system for payment. In other words, if you now go to someone that offers you a credit card and they got a merchant account, there's a button inside of their merchant account where they can pull a file, which is it's nothing more than a low-tiered DTC system. They ping it, see you in the system, decide how much credit they're going to give you, and they tether you directly when you make your Gucci bag purchase. And then if you don't lose weight and go to church, then it's not going to work anymore. They're going to start taking money out of it. It's to critique your behavior. You're not going to be able to have an extra $2,000 set aside. They're going to take it. They're going to tell you got to spend it between now and Friday. And if you don't spend it on Friday at Sam's, and you don't like Walmart and you don't like Sam's, then the bank's going to take it. It's going that these scenarios are no longer theory. They are already in the algorithm. So right now you don't have the luxury. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to let someone else do it because everybody's saving themselves. The banks fail their liquidity test, so when you touch the bank, it technically is no longer yours. That's why the system of credit can only expect credit.
Okay.
Using the tax form show that you're on the right side of the conversation. Trying to convert it from a 3 to a 2 to a 1 they're going to see you coming. That's why the SBA had $8 billion that didn't get used.
So then
they had an $8 billion surplus, so now they repetitioned that $8 billion back into other platforms and programs. So if you got a legitimate business that technically has not touched PPP, doesn't have any, I'm gonna kind of say it the way it was promoted to me. And the first time in a long time, you get a tax ID number tonight, you can apply for SBA loan tomorrow. And I got a couple of folks that are putting their indemnity bonds out where they get you funded in 24 hours. They just want a certain size deal.
Wow.
If you at least go for 10 million or 20 million, they will go ahead because everybody gets a turn.
Mm-hmm.
$8 billion being lent to someone who is barely making ends meet ain't a good strategy. $8 billion in surplus to someone who lost their job but decided to start a business, great strategy. That's the push. They can't afford the looky-loos and the folks that haven't done X, Y, and Z. They're too deep into the algorithm. But if you're a new kid on the block, you can take that risk. It's always been on the back of small businesses that economic growth was tethered to. Small businesses did most of the hiring and so forth. So the algorithm is stating, let's lower the requirements. You know what the requirements for an SBA loan is? Like, credit-wise?
No credit. Look.
500.
Wow.
There are individuals right now that are running programs. Mr. Montgomery is one of them. I've sent a lot of clients to him. They're giving you credit. His group gives you credit. You guarantee he gives you $100,000 in credit coming in the door.
Oh, it's a loan company?
They're a litigation company. They're doing the same thing we're doing. They're litigation.
How to go in.
Right. It's all DTC and DTCC.
Yeah. Now, how much do they charge for their program?
They ran a promotion last week to onboard was $250, which is a down payment on that $2,500 platform. So he's got $2,500 platforms and $5,000. So technically, it's a $10,000 buy-in, but they seg it down.
Okay, that's not bad.
Nope, not bad at all.
Hmm.
So the AI technically gives you all of these things. Accounting, bookkeeping, which are mandatory in a lot of instances. You're not going to be able to go, in the algorithm of 2024 and not do these things. Right now, if you got government funding such as SBA funding, they made it where everybody can qualify, and so a lot of people on the other side of Congress are upset. Why? Because they don't want everybody qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
There's an incentive for everybody not qualifying. If you got bad credit, I can charge you more.
Well, people have wised up in the height of COVID and figured out you can't deny me credit because the Treasury says so.
Right. So you just have to. It's all about, but you have to turn that credit into resources. That's that part.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Getting the credit, you got to go further than that. It's like, okay, now that you got it, what you gonna do with it? And then you got to have, like, I'll go ahead and tell you guys this. As you fill out all this stuff that Loan Disc is giving you with the audit, the securitization audits, and the audits are scheduled. I think you got Miss Flemings on. Miss Flemings, you there? Monique, are you there?
I'm here. I was just getting.
Right.
Wait. Me.
So, I'm bringing you into the conversation in that regard. The same week that they're going to do the real estate closing is when the audits are going to be going. So from September 8th on, that's when everyone who's already in, that's when your audit's going to start. And those audits are the paper trail accounting and instrumentality for what you're going to do. Now, it's going to ask you, everybody's cases are different. So, for example, Trey may get 50 questions that he has to answer. You may get 20. Jarvis may get 10. Empress may get 40. Everybody's situation is different. So it interacts based upon what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
The UCCs work in tandem with what does that look like in the court register investment system.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the DTC side. If you're going to be doing anything on the DTCC side, same thing. It's just the UCCs have a different mechanism. One side is creating credit. The other side is reporting credit. If you're on the insurance side, you know what flavor is your cake. If you're on, you see what I'm saying? Like you can literally, if you know that you got to have insurance and reinsurance to make any deal work. If you insure it, then what flavor is that insurance?
Mm-hmm.
We got a platform right now that if you have Keyman Insurance in an LLC, they're offering some very, interesting terms because they can become a partner. See, everybody wants to get on your insurance.
So not a partner in the business, but a partner in the policy.
Right. They want to get on the policy. Being part of the policy, they get to add it to their book. They get to add that to their book.
Now, the audit, will it have the same package that we received? Will we be transferring information from that to the audit?
Basically, the audit is going to let you know best case scenario, worst case scenario, and what you need in between to make it sustainable. Sustainability is what these audits are about.
Right, because we want to write into the transaction how it will be paid back within the 90 days, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, guys, look, I told y'all gonna hang out to the office till my ride got here, so I gotta bounce. But look, I'm gonna put this recording out.
Hey, can I ask
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that we're not really moving forward until like September 8th?
No, what I'm saying is it depends on the transaction. For example, some of you guys can move tomorrow if you know what you're doing and where you're going. Like the audit is going to substantiate how you're moving, what you're moving to. September, October, November, technically it's the end of the year for us. October is the end of the year. Physical year ends, new physical starts after October. So there's some of you guys are eligible to do electronic OIDs. That whole market is getting ready to ramp up.
Especially for the handling, like the bill of exchanges for
right.
Debt, closing, settling.
Right.
Right.
So now we're just waiting for an email. We're just waiting.
Right. You're just waiting on the software to come. They go through your file and purport what it needs to report and send you the next step. It's already in queue. If you've already made it to the KYC and the 1098, you're exactly where you need to be. If you hadn't got that yet, then get at me. But that'll work. All right, guys, I got to go ahead and jump out of here. So I'm gonna put the recording up, and we'll make it do what it do.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Peace and love.
All right, peace and love.